All right, welcome back to another episode of Side Note, the podcast dedicated to electronic music and all things related. And I am your host, Nick. Pleasure today to introduce you guys to up-and-coming house DJ, Tunez from the Crypt. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Also just want to say thank you for what you're doing. You know, I think you're doing a great thing with this concept, really highlighting the up-and-coming talent.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like we've never had a thing before like behind the music, so I'm really grateful to be able to kind of provide that peek behind the curtain for our scene here. But so yeah, man, welcome. And so I understand that you're a relative newcomer, but I also see that you've been playing out like a bit. So like as I ask many of the people who come on, like talk about some of your recent gigs.
Yeah. So I've only been playing since this past summer, since May. So what's that, 6 months?
Damn, super new.
Yeah,
well, you're
really
as new as this show. So.
Yeah, we're going to grow together, right?
Yeah.
So only since this May. And it's just come so naturally. It's just getting my first gig. It's just happened so easily. And, excited for the growth of my career and just to continue to, get better. And yeah, my first show was at the Hideaway in Riverside.
Okay.
That was my first show. Have you ever been there?
I have not.
Yeah. It's a cool little club in downtown Riverside. Shout out to Bass Alien for giving me my first opportunity to play a show. I appreciate you, man, because, like you've mentioned, getting that first gig is really all it takes, right? Getting that first one is what it takes to like show that you can actually DJ, show your skills, and then you get the gigs start coming after that. But getting that first one is like the most important. Yeah. So I played there. I played at the Basement in Pomona. I've played Novocaine's Electric Jungle, which was like the after party after Nocturnal and after Escape, right across the street.
That's the one that Sway Sav also played at? Okay.
Yeah. So that one, big things going on over there, because we're able to capitalize on all the foot traffic from the rave, and they hear the music and they want to keep partying. So then they walk over and yeah, so I played for Nocturnal, I played for Escape, and various other underground shows,
Dope, man. And I guess, from deciding that this is something that you wanted to do to like landing that first gig, what were the steps involved in terms of doing that?
Yeah. So basically, I don't know. I felt like in my head, I always knew I was going to be a DJ. I always knew it. I think I was always so distracted by partying. I was always so distracted. I couldn't focus, and the pandemic was really a blessing in disguise because there was less partying. So I was able to lock myself in my room and focus and learn to DJ. So I was a bedroom DJ for a few months. And that's really what it took was the pandemic, honestly. I'm sure you're noticing there's a lot of talent coming out now because of the pandemic. People were able to focus, sit down, and learn, and so that's really what started it. Like I said, I've been building my library over years. I've always been into music. I'm in love with music. So I've been building my library for years, and then last October 2020. Was when I started mixing in my room, and then all the way until May, getting my first gig.
Got it. So I guess a couple things there. Number one, you're definitely not the first person who's come on and talked about how the pandemic was really an opportunity for growth. I mean, myself included, and I think I've mentioned it on the show before. I don't think we're sitting here right now like we're making this content, but for the pandemic and sort of the opportunities that it provided. So yeah, even though it's been such a kind of negative influence on everyone's lives, I think there's a lot of sort of silver lining
definitely
to be had as well, which is great. And yeah, in terms of, so it sounds like you've been in the scene for a while, just kind of more as a consumer. I guess what were some of your kind of preferred consumption tastes, as a raver, and how far back does that go?
Yeah, my first rave experience was in 2008. I was in high school. I started hearing about the kids going to raves, and I was curious, and my first show was actually a drum and bass show. It was actually at a skate shop in Compton in 2008, man. Actually, right around Thanksgiving, so 13 years ago. And my friend Billy, his girlfriend, her friend was like very big in the scene, very involved. And she, took us to a drum and bass show, like I said, at a skate shop in Compton. I think you were able to like donate a can of food or something to get in for free or like at a discounted rate. And I remember just entering that little zone and just hearing the bass. And I was just like, man, what is this music? Like, wow, this is amazing. Like, so I started with drum and bass, that was my first experience.
And then what vein of drum and bass was it? Kind of like the kind of almost dubsteppy stuff, or like liquid,
no, like drum and bass,
jungle,
like jungle.
Okay.
Yeah. So fell in love with that, and then that really like opened me up to a whole world of opportunity when it comes to the electronic music scene. So that was that, and then 2009 I went to. Did you ever go to Hudson, Gotham City in San Bernardino?
No, man.
Do you remember that place?
I don't. The only place in San Bernardino that I know of was the Fox Theater.
Yeah, they have that too.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, the Hudson, Gotham City, man, that was the spot in like 2008, 2009.
Okay.
They were all ages raves, and that's where all the kids would go to go rave every weekend, And so I went to my first rave there, was Spread the Love. And that was my first time dabbling. And then after that, then it was EDC 2009 at the Coliseum. And that was my first massive festival. And that's...
Oh, man. So you're like an OG EDC or like the LA version. Okay.
LA, man. Yeah. So that's, after going to EDC at the Coliseum, like, man, I'll hold on to those memories like dearly. Like that was literally what changed my life, and really got me into raving. So yeah, I went from drum and bass, and then I really started to get into like Cascade, Deadmau5, Swedish House Mafia, Benny Benassi. So, house, all subgenres of house, electro, bass, house, progressive house, whatever you want to call it. So I really got into that. And then after that, around 2012, dubstep, the old school dubstep scene started to get popular. Okay. So I got into that a little bit, but house has always been my true passion, my true calling.
Got it. Yeah, and I listened to some of your sets online, like definite like house in like a very like traditional sense, which I think, among many of the newcomers that I've spoken with, like pretty rare, right? I think like these days there's a lot more techno
tech house
and hard techno and also tech house.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think your mix definitely stuck out to me when I was kind of browsing through, like, oh, this is like OG house, like in the traditional classic sense.
And that's my goal, man, is to make that popular, because I think it sounds the best. Maybe I'm biased, but I think that's the best sounding house, Tech house, I love tech house too, but I feel like if it's kind of gotten into this path of it all sounds the same. Like it all sounds good, but it all sounds the same.
It's like a formula, yeah.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that, but as an artist, you want to stand out, right? And so I like the deeper sounds of house, the real house music, the 90s vibe, Yeah.
Yeah, man. And yeah, I mean, in terms of stuff kind of sounding formulaic, I think that's just like, I think there's a natural cycle that I've seen in 20 years that I've been doing this shit, right? Like something hits that's like a big hit, and then there emerges a ton of stuff that kind of sounds like that, and then it just moves from one kind of sound to the next. So like when Deadmau5 came up, there was like a lot of zipper, like stabby sounding, kind of like kind of electro housey, right? And then,
Did you have that phase you're into?
I feel like for me, like I've always been into kind of like the trippier, kind of like darker, what used to be called progressive house. And, the labels change, but for me, the vibe has always been the same. But so I guess no, but like, and I still am aware of like kind of all of the like overarching trends.
I think it was with your interview with Theo. You brought up Ejeka.
Oh shit! You watched my interview with Theo?
Yeah.
Wow. Thanks,
well, how could you not? Theo's a legend.
Yeah.
And when you said that, I was like, man, I got to get on this show, because no one knows about Ejeka. Like in 2013, like I found his stuff and I was like I love this, man. Like I always play his stuff in my sets too. You know some of his songs?
Hell yeah, man. I love his trance wax. Shout out to Ejeka. Maybe we'll have you on someday, sir.
I think he's in the UK, right?
Yeah. Well, we're going to go global at some point.
No, yeah, I really like that song, Rosario, What You Think, Horizon. Oh yeah, his stuff is amazing.
Yeah, I mean that sort of like underground, like warehousey kind of trippy shit. That's like my fucking jam. So yeah, Ajeka is definitely falls within that. And then obviously, like I think a lot of people who like came up in the late 90s, early 2000s, you know, we started with trance. That was like the gateway drug to everything else.
Everything, yeah.
And I think Ajeka sort of shares that background because he has like the trance wax alias. He has like an awesome like essential mix of like 2 hours of like just trance wax where he's like remixing all these old classics as like breaks tracks, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then like, now he has like a new album under that moniker that came out on Anjuna, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, but anyway, so like, you know, I definitely vibe that you're a house traditionalist, which in this day and age is rare. And so like, who are some of your influences? I saw in your bio, like DJ Dan and a couple other kind of well-known names
DJ
there.
Dan, Miguel Miggs. Do you know who Totally Enormous Extinct Dinosaurs are?
Teed.
Oh man, I love his stuff. And Mark Knight, you know, all that, you know. And actually shout out to Duscope in Canada. I'm not sure if you've heard of him. He's an up-and-comer as well. He's the one that's been giving me lessons on production. And, you know, shout out to him, man, because, you know, him, you know, taking the time to teach me is really what's going to help me take my my artistry to the next level. And his stuff is amazing too. He's been supported by Roger Sanchez and Mark Knight. They're playing his songs, and he even has his own record label and all that. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Have you gotten a chance to go to kind of travel around the country and do parties elsewhere, like Chicago or New York or anything?
No. Yeah, just right now, SoCal.
Okay. Yeah. Just because, you know, I think some of those other cities have a much richer history with house. Obviously, Chicago.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Detroit.
New York. Even San Francisco, you know, I think has a much deeper history with house than LA does. I mean, not that LA does not have kind of deep electronic roots, but I feel like especially these days, it's like we're a techno town, you know, or like kind of like a deep house town, like it's like the burners and the hard techno people, and I feel like there's less and less in between. But you know, if you go to parties in New York today, still like that kind of like old school, like classic house vibe
is live,
still
over there,
alive, like, you know, alive and well.
What are some spots in New York?
So back when I lived there from 2006 to 2010, which admittedly, like right now is, from what I understand, like the golden age of like parties in New York, because everything's kind of moved to Brooklyn and it's like super kind of robust and free. When I was there, you know, 2006, it's like kind of 5 years out from 9/11. So, you know, like the party scene had kind of deflated kind of in the post 9/11 environment. But like I was going to Pasha. So that's like the Ibiza club. You know, they had like a branch in New York City.
Okay, nice.
There was another spot.
Have you been to Ibiza?
Crowbar. I have not. That's still on the bucket list. Yeah. Spot called Crowbar and a few other, like, you know, back then, like there was only super clubs. Whereas like now, like there's like the rave scene, there's the warehouse scene where it's still like big production, but it's, you know, semi legal. But you know, I was talking to Gia from 6 a.m. last week, and it's like, yeah, like in LA, back in the day, there was like 3 places you could go to, right? There was like the Vanguard in Hollywood, the Exchange downtown,
Avalon,
and the Avalon in Hollywood, and that was it. And then otherwise there were like raves, but those were like all ages, like 18 plus shit. So like if you're like a grown adult, like
you don't want to go there.
You only had 3 options on any given weekend. And now like I open up Resident Advisor, there's tons and tons and tons, you know, like I was supposed to go to something tonight and it fell through. And I was like, well, there's like 4 other parties like we can hit up tonight, all with like major like headliners, which is phenomenal. So yeah, I guess that's just to say like the scene now is definitely robust.
Yeah, definitely after the pandemic too. I'm not like all these event throwers came out, you know, and during some were during the pandemic, and and they continue throwing events. And so there's so many options now. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, the promoters, everyone has, I mean, I'm glad to see that like so many people have used the pandemic, not to like belabor the point there, but to like expand and kind of use it as an opportunity and to grow, and not to just kind of let it beat them down or beat us down, which is great. Shout out to the human spirit. But, I wanted to ask you, so, it sounds like a lot of your raving has been kind of focused kind of in the Inland Empire. Yeah. And I have known there always to be like a pretty robust scene out there. How would you compare like what's going on out there to what's going on in like LA County?
I would say, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's my opinion. I would say that the IE is like even more underground.
Right.
Like LA is underground, right? But there's something about being in LA. It's kind of that more poppy, like, just the fact of being in LA, those type of people,
Right.
And the IE, I would say, is just even more underground. Like, yeah, that's the difference, I would say.
And do you find like that's like a positive aspect for you, or is it like neutral? It's just like different.
Well, I would say I prefer LA. I think the events are thrown better, better production.
Got it.
So yeah.
Okay. So I mean, it almost sounds like maybe like vibe, because it's like less pretentious out in the IE, but maybe the distinction is like the production isn't as.
And in reality, when I think about it, there's really not a lot going on in the IE.
Really?
Nah. Like I said, Novocaine's been having his parties. There's a couple of event throwers out there. Nothing's really popping though, like it is out in LA. Yeah.
Okay.
Like we mentioned, Incognito, 6 a.m. all
right.
that. Yeah.
Right. I mean, obviously, like, yeah, the party scene in a major city versus like a suburb, but
yeah.
I don't know, for a suburb, it seems like there's a shit ton going on out there, like,
and definitely a lot of like desert events and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like there's a lot of renegade stuff like out there. Obviously the National Orange Show, the NOS Center is out there. So, even Insomniac is throwing shit out there. Right. And then you guys are doing your after parties and stuff. I meant to ask, like, so you're a house guy, and, we had Sway on, who's like clearly on the opposite end of the spectrum, but you guys played at the same party?
Yeah.
Like on the same stage, or was it different
stages?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did it work? Was there like a house stage and a techno stage, or?
For the most part, there was the side stage and the main stage. For the nocturnal one, I played on the side stage, and then for the escape, I played on the main stage, which I was surprised. I was like, oh, so I played on the main one. And they kind of try and separate it. Funny story, actually. The DJ after me, I won't name any names or whatever, but he was drunk. He was really drunk, and like
DJs are prone.
He was late. He was late to his set. Probably about like 10 minutes. And I remember looking at my friend in the crowd, and I'm like pointing at my wrist, like, dude, I'm done. I'm supposed to be done already. Like, where's the next guy? And it was 10 minutes over. I was like, all right, I'll keep playing, And then here he comes all drunk, and he gets on the stage. You could tell he's drunk, and he's a bigger guy, and like knocked over the setup. And
shit.
And like I said, the production, like it was just a thin layer of sheet wood, on the stage that we were standing on. And so he stomped and like fell through it, and it made a and me and Lavenge, we looked at each other and we're like, oh, damn, like this is happening. And we like went to help him, but then after that, killed it.
Nice. Nice. That's a true DJ, right?
Yeah.
That's like the real shit. Have you heard of Ricardo Villalobos?
Yeah.
Okay. Like,
the raver though. Or no.
No, the DJ.
Oh, no.
I think he's a Chilean DJ who's like famous for like crazy long sets and crazy long remixes. Like he'll do like 13, 14-minute long remixes.
Oh, wow. That long?
But, he's known for just being like shit-faced.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you're on the Worst Techno Memes group on Facebook, they're always making like memes about him. There's all kinds of pictures of him like K'd out.
Oh, I gotta look at that.
Looking like completely wrecked.
You said he's from Chile?
I think so. But he's like a phenomenal like fucking DJ. And you can see there's very few sets of his like in full on YouTube or online, but there's a lot of like camera footage of people like recording him. And it's just amazing to watch because he's like sweating and he looks, shout out to Ricardo, by the way. I don't mean to talk shit. Please come on. Although from what I understand, there may be like visa issues with Ricardo, but anyway, yeah, I mean, like these videos are amazing. He's like sweating. He's like dancing around. He's like beat matching vinyl. He's like kissing and hugging girls in the booth.
Oh
like,
man, this guy's a rock star.
Yeah, it's just like constant movement, just like.
That's like, have you seen that one DJ, Salvatore Ganacci?
Yeah. So Salvatore kind of has like a Ricardo vibe, but Salvatore does not look anywhere near as like fucked up.
Oh, okay.
Salvatore just looks like he's kind of trolling everyone a little bit.
You seen the stuff he does?
Yeah. Like even his music videos are like pretty trolly, like but funny. But no, like shout out to Ricardo. Actually, Ricardo played at Time Warp like last weekend or the weekend before. I think Claus and Rave Train were out there, and I think
it's a big techno festival, right?
Yeah.
Where's that at?
It was in New York.
Okay.
And I also think, do you know Omar from TechnoFam?
I've seen him around. Okay. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he was out there too. It's like a small circle, this scene, right? But anyway, yeah, shout out to Ricardo, fucking legend. Don't mean to talk shit. All like full respect. But I mean, that's all that to say, I think like to a certain degree, like being able to manage like being wrecked out of your mind and then like dropping like the most amazing set is like the mark of a true DJ.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you know who Sasha is?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you know, the first like superstar DJ, like legendary, right? Like back in the day, like in the UK, he was like infamous for, you know, like being that level of.
Oh, really?
I feel like these days, like he's more like dad vibes. But you know, there's like articles and stuff from back in the day where it's just like, yeah, like wrecked.
Yeah, I like to, you know, have a few shots before I play, calm the nerves, but I don't like to be wrecked. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the times I do play out, I feel like, you know, I like to be a little bit wrecked. Not super wrecked, but a little bit wrecked. I have friends who like are so good at like navigating that. Like I have one friend, not gonna name names, but he's like excellent at DJing while on K, which I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, because I don't know if you ever fuck with that.
I've never tried that.
But it's like a dissociative, right?
Yeah.
So like the way I would describe it is you feel like a ghost. Like it's like you're out of your body and you just feel like this amorphous kind of like spirit.
Yeah, that's another
around.
popular right now, another popular drug, right? And I think or not a lot, but there are quite a few that, you know, do that while they play.
Yeah. So to be able to feel like you're a floating spirit with very little connection to like a bodily form and yet be able to like drop a set, highly impressive.
Yeah.
And actually, I think Ricardo is known for his taste for ketamine. So shout out again to Ricardo. But yeah, man. So what else I was going to ask you? So producing, you mentioned that you're getting into that. You know, what's the approach there, and how do you kind of go about that?
Yeah. So like I said, I've only been DJing 6 months, only been producing 1 month. And I'm still learning. There's a lot to learn, but it's honestly, you know, it's so easy now with there's samples out there. Like you just drag and drop samples. It's so easy. And I'm sure that might be frowned upon as well. So I try not to make my whole song just completely made out of samples. You know, my first song I made, I actually took and made the bass line, made the melody, but most of it was samples. You know, and yeah, that's pretty much what it is. I just find the samples that I like, you know, and try to sound unique, try to sound different, and then, you know, arrange it into a song.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, it's the mastering of the track that's really kind of where the magic happens. You know, to where I think like a lot of producers will even pay like somebody else like top dollar to like master their shit for them.
Yeah.
And then in terms of sampling, I mean, I feel like it can go both ways. And a lot of tracks are like a combination of like sound pack and like somebody like recording their own samples and like processing them.
Yeah.
I saw like a thing from Bad Boombox on TikTok.
Okay.
Have you seen like he like records his dog like yelping like burp, 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 burp. And then he turns it into like a techno track to where like you don't even recognize that the underlying sample is like
I've seen
dog,
that.
Which is crazy.
That guy
like,
makes crazy videos like him dancing and
and the shit people can do these days, like people are like so talented. So in terms of like your production style, is it mainly like that kind of classic house vibe or?
Yeah. You know, like I said, I'm still in the beginning phases. So still figuring out my sound, you know, but you know, as my name is Tunes from the Crypt, I kind of want it to be like, you know, darker, like deeper sounds of house. And so, yeah, still kind of figuring out my sound, but that's the direction I'm heading for sure.
Got it. And, you know, so like as a newcomer, you know, I imagine that you have like a real world kind of life and career. A lot of the people that I've had on have real world lives and careers. I mean, even fucking Theo, who is like a legend, has a real world life and career. So, you know, how do you manage that? You know, as far as partying, producing, DJing, like, you know, it's basically having like a secret identity, right? So how do you navigate all that?
Yeah. I actually don't keep it so secret. But maybe I should, I don't know. But yeah, I went to Cal Poly, graduated with my degree in public relations. And then now I work in marketing and that's another thing too. I think a lot of artists need to really hone in on their branding and their marketing to really stand out. And I think the fact that I have a marketing background is a good asset for my artistry. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine that's like huge win for you. And that actually brings me to a question that I ask a lot of folks. You know, it feels, or it's not even that it feels. The reality is that these days, in order to excel as an artist, you actually have to also double as like an influencer, right? Yeah. Like, you know, I you know, a lot of the active DJs that I'm seeing these days put in as much, if not more effort, you know, on a daily basis into like pushing their social media stories, their IG stories, you know, as they do into the music, which, you know, whether you like it or not, whether you like it or not, you know, the fact is it's like a shit ton of work, right? So what are your thoughts on that and how do you navigate?
It's a lot of work, right? But you got to do it. It needs to be done. And I mean, it is a lot of work, but it's not. Like, you got to utilize these social media platforms, utilize them. They're a free tool, you know, take advantage of them. And there's no reason why you can't, you know, it's free, like for the most part. But yeah, I mean, it's very important because DJs have to sell tickets. They have to bring a crowd, you know, which is the sad part. You know, you would think that it would rely on the promoter's job to bring the crowd, you know, but now you have to be a DJ, you have to play good music, you have to mix good, you have to make music, and you have to bring a crowd. So it's a lot of work, you know. And actually for the Nocturnal show, I was one of the DJs that sold more tickets. And I'll even run ads like a few days before my show. And I noticed that helps with sales.
Oh yeah. So like, talk to me about how that works in terms of like, how are you able to determine that those ticket sales were connected to you?
At least for the Electric Jungle shows, with Eventbrite, you know, you can set it up where each DJ gets their own specific URL, your own link. And Eventbrite, it's very easy, their dashboard to, you know, see how many sales they made, each link.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay. So basically you'll post about it on your gram and then
so it says like the event.com/tunes from the crypt in my specific URL.
Got it. Yeah. And then so somebody will just click on your link tree to the party or something and then they'll buy the ticket and then
it tracks.
Okay. Yeah. So at the end of it, the promoter knows exactly like how many tickets each DJ sold. And then are you getting a cut of that or like how are you compensated?
Yeah. For that one, he does a good job of really, you know, taking care of the artists and paying them out. And it's 50% of the ticket sale.
So you get half? You get half of every ticket sold?
That's very good, right?
Yeah.
Normally it's less, you know, so that's very good, especially when tickets are $20-$30, you know, you're making $10-$15 on each ticket, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, as a DJ, it's like, if you really want to make money doing this, like put in the work, you know, how many tickets you want to sell, you know, that's how much money you're going to make for playing.
Got it. So yeah, I can definitely see how having.
But that's the way he does it. I don't know how everyone else does it. I know there is a lot of shady stuff that goes around sometimes, but he does a great job of, taking care of the artists.
And then I assume.
Shout out Novocaine, man. You got to get him on.
Actually, yeah, I think I might follow him, or he might follow me, maybe both. So shout out. We'll get you on, bro. Definitely want to talk to more promoters in the scene.
Oh no, he's a DJ.
Oh, he's okay.
Well,
but
both,
he's both.
Yeah.
Okay, he's a promoter DJ. It's like hard techno.
He plays house, tech house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And then are you getting a cut of the beverage as well?
No, see that's the thing too, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that's still fair, right? Because he's organizing the party, right? So he's keeping the beverage, but you're getting a cut of tickets. Like I think that's more than fair. Yeah. And then I didn't even consider that. Like, obviously I knew that as a DJ, you kind of have to sell yourself more through Instagram as an influencer, but sort of the traditional online marketing aspect of it too, of like, pushing a funnel into ticket sales. So like how, for example, are you deploying online marketing to drive ticket sales when after you have a link?
Yeah. So like I said, I'll run ads for, a few days leading up to the show, and a lot of organic, feed posts, story posts. And like I said, that marketing background definitely helps, because a lot of my job at the marketing agency is copywriting. So I do a lot of copywriting, writing emails, writing stuff for websites, writing press releases. So I know what you need to write, what you need to say to, get that person to do whatever action you want, in this case, buy a ticket. So I know how to write pretty well. So, I utilize that as well.
So you run the ad like on Facebook or on Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
actually it's not even an ad. I just boost the post. Yeah. Which is technically an ad.
Okay.
So you could do that for this channel too.
So I didn't know that. I didn't even know that exists. But like we have to have like a whole conversation offline, but just for the viewers. So you're putting a post on your account, like the flyer to the party.
Usually a video if I can, because video is what converts best.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you can pay for your post does it only go to people who follow you, or does it then
No, that's
show
what
up in other
that's what the ad is. It reaches out to, so you can set up your targeting and all that, age, male, female, what interests do they have, and the mile radius. And so if I'm having a show in San Bernardino, I'm going to put it in San Bernardino with like a 20-mile radius or whatever. And then their interests, everything EDM, all the raves,
Got it.
And then, that usually works pretty well. And then I'm giving away the secret hacks right now. I probably should be keeping my mouth shut.
Don't mean to like give out the secret sauce.
No, I'm just kidding.
Plus, like, I feel like most people, even hearing this from you, won't know how to like navigate any of that shit. And then like, how much is that costing you to like run?
You can do $5 a day, $10 a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cause like I just put up, like a Thanksgiving mix, for like the fans or whatever on my Mixcloud. And it's like offering me like, oh, we'll boost you for like 5 days for like $50 a month, or $50 for 5 days. And I'm like, I don't even know
$10 a day.
I don't even know what that does. Like, what is that even doing?
I'm not so sure about Mixcloud. That sounds a little like, I wouldn't think that's a better use of your money. Definitely Facebook and Instagram are, that's where everyone's at. I mean, because what would you get out of Mixcloud? You put the ad up, you're gonna get more plays on your set,
right? Yeah.
Or do followers matter on Mixcloud?
No.
Yeah. So it's not really a good use of your money.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I saw them post, I was like, that's good. I'm good.
Yeah.
But I do see like, I'll listen to something and it'll like say, hey, you might like this. And it'll just be like some random person's like shitty mix. I'm saying like, I'm sure some of them are good, but it's just somebody who paid to play, But yeah, it's so fascinating, man, because this is the first time anyone who has come on and really talked about kind of the reality of the situation these days, which is like you do have to deploy like some real like 21st century marketing behind your DJ career,
These days, I think, honestly, we're all marketers. You have to be, you have to be.
Yeah, it's the only thing. There's like a joke. shout out to the worst techno memes group ever on Facebook. But right now they're like on this festival in Saudi Arabia where like a bunch of like big time headliners are playing, and they're hating on them because, you know, like Saudi Arabia has like a terrible like human rights track record. They're like, you know, not to get all political, you know, they're like a known supporter of terrorism, etc. So they're like, why are you guys playing this fucking festival? Like, it's wrong. And it's, someone was commenting, it's like, well, the one thing these DJs are all really good at is social media. So they'll figure out a way how to spin it as like a positive. And it's like, oh yeah, like it kind of dawned on me reading that, like, you know, the reality that you're speaking to right now of, you know, it really is like marketing.
Definitely.
Which is crazy. So yeah, I mean, you have a leg up, and I'm so stoked to have this conversation with you because nobody, you know, has come on, you know, through that lens. Like I came up in a generation, and I've talked about this before, like you would just go to the party and like hand your fucking mix CD out and hope that somebody would listen to it and then email you afterward and be like, hey, I heard your mix. And now it's like a completely different ballgame. I think there's like pros and cons to that too, though, right? Because you were talking about like what is required of a DJ these days, right? And it's like you need to bring a crowd, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to actually know how to play and play good music. And I think like as we've come into the social media age, it's pushed the music down. Meaning, so like that's not even it's not as though the best DJs with the best tastes and the best skills are rising to the top, because a lot of them may not be good marketers. And that's not to say that you're not, you know, because you can't be both, right? I'm like, you're certainly, from what I've heard, like encompass kind of the full spectrum, but across like the DJ universe, and I don't know anyone personally that I would point to and say that that's the case for, but certainly it must exist that there's a lot of like shitty, well, I mean, I can point to like a lot of like stadium, like big time tech house DJs who I don't like that much, but you know, they're good marketers.
Yeah. It sucks too, because honestly, I don't like social media. I don't like having to do all that, you know. There's even studies out there that are saying, you know, how bad it is for your mental health and all that, because you're comparing your life to other people's and, oh, look how good they have it and all that. And it really can affect people's mental health. And, you know, I really don't like it, and I don't want to do it, but you have to.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like body image studies and like self-harm stuff. Like, it's like, yeah, it's really
I just feel
good.
so much happier when it's a day where I don't have to talk to anyone, text anyone, reply to messages on social media. Those days, I love those days. You know what I mean? Yeah.
But like, honestly, I like, to be honest, like I feel myself becoming like addicted to it. You know, like, I you know, like I post a story about a new episode, and then it's like, oh, I can't stop like checking like how many people have looked at the story.
That dopamine hit.
Yeah, and then like,
all these likes.
Oh shit, likes. Oh, somebody messaged me and gave me a flame. Yeah, you know, and then it's like toggling over to like the YouTube studio and be like, oh, or like, oh, there's only 20 viewers, no, you know, and then like just like feeling completely beholden to, you know, like letting the analytics dictate how I feel, which is like, fuck.
Which sucks.
Yeah.
And it's not going away.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is to stay, man.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this got a lot of views in the first couple hours. I feel great. And then, oh, this one didn't get views. I feel bad. Right. And it's like, it's not a good place to be. Like, how does that change? Like with like the metaverse, have you followed any of that?
Oh yeah. Crazy time to be alive. Right. And so, yeah, it's now we're, you know, Facebook just, you know, rebranded as Meta. So they're really pursuing, you know, virtual reality, augmented reality. So in the next 5 years, like that's going to change the game. Can you imagine that? That's going to change the game for everything too. Like virtual reality, augmented reality. Like I can't even imagine. Because like, you know, Marshmello, he played a concert inside Fortnite. Travis Scott played a concert inside Fortnite. And so stuff like that. And man,
Deadmau5 did one in another metaverse platform called Decentraland, which is like crazy. Like, are we going to get to the point where we don't even need DJs though, right? Like you can just go into the metaverse and have like some like programmed bot, like people are going to follow bots. That's going to be their favorite DJs. Like, fuck, I don't need a human DJ. Man. Like this DJ exists only in the metaverse. And I'm going to go see the concert. Like I can't even begin to imagine like how that's
crazy.
Gonna start So it's going to start changing things. Well, thing is, you can't do drugs in the metaverse.
Or can you?
Well, I mean, like, you can do them and then put on your shit, but that's still never going to beat, like, you know, being in front of a speaker and letting it, like, blow your face off. So the metaverse will never be able to compete with that.
Have you ever watched Black Mirror?
Yeah, of course,
Oh,
man.
yeah, love that show. You seen that, Black Mirror?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I watched the first episode and then I got.
Oh, that show is intense. It's like a modern day, like Twilight Zone, like.
Yeah, it's pretty good, but it's like a downer. Like, I feel like when it first dropped, like 10 years ago, it was like, oh, it's like a warning for the future. It's like so poignant. And now that we're living it, it's like, no. Like,
Oh, yeah, that show's crazy.
yeah, like so much of what it like predicted is like coming true. Like there's the episode where everyone's constantly rating each other online, and like your ability to even like get an apartment is based on how many like followers and likes you have, and like you have to get like a coach to be like, okay, like you like living here is within reach, but you need to do X, Y, and Z to like boost your profile. Fucked. Like that's not a world I want to live in.
Right? Yeah.
And that's not a world that I want to have to be a DJ in either, because I feel like there's a lot of like implications there as well. And then have you followed? I feel like I cannot do an episode without like dropping the crypto. I'm sorry, guys. Eventually we'll drop a crypto channel. But have you heard of like social tokens? Have you heard of this shit?
No.
It's like now, like as a person, as an artist, you can have your own coin. And then people will buy and sell the coin. And based on like how many coins people have, it's like Patreon, you know, you'll drop exclusive content, exclusive access, you know, like holders of 10,000 or more of, you know, side note coin.
Yeah, that's like this whole NFT craze and everything too, right? Like, geez.
It's going to like dominate our lives. And I can see ways where all of this change is going to improve our lives in a lot of ways. And then I can also see ways where it's going to sort of be like kind of dystopian, like sci-fi, like it can kind of go either way. And you know, it's going to be 2022 soon. Like we're like firmly into like the 21st century, like firmly into kind of our tech future. And it's crazy to see like how things shake out. You know, like I think will we not even like an AI bot, maybe like a real robot, like that DJs. Like, like
I could see it.
It'll be like Chappie or something, and like there will be people who created it, but they'll just tour and they'll take their robot from place to place, and they'll be like, "Here, come see, you know, come see Spinbot play."
Oh my
God,
manage, that's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's totally gonna happen.
I can see it.
It can manage 8 CDJs at once. Human can't do that. Carl Cox can't do that.
It'll have like a marshmallow head on it, or some kind of like or dead mouse head or something.
I feel like we've descended into stoner territory right now. Although like I am not stoned right now. I don't know about you.
Nah.
It's early on a Saturday for folks. It's like noon. But I do like the turn we've taken. So like moving it back, to the scene and the music, like a lot of people I talk to, I mean, obviously if you've been in rave and, feel free to discuss as little or as much about this as you want. But I know that for me personally, part of what has driven my passion for rave has been the combination of like certain psychoactive substances and the music, right? And, I had Gia from 6 a.m. on last week, and he was talking about how, he was in the scene for a while, but it was really the first time that he went to like a real like Berlin techno party and rolled at the same time, that it completely changed the trajectory of his DJ career musically and also the parties that he wanted to throw. Like, so do you have any like similar experiences that you would be willing to talk about?
I think first off, I would want to say is that, alcohol is like the most socially acceptable substance, right? But it's honestly one of the most dangerous.
Yeah.
And, we don't consider that, right? And, these psychoactive substances, like they sound so bad, right? But that's because we're told that, they're really not as bad as as they're really not that bad, you know, obviously with responsibility and everything in moderation. But yeah, definitely my first experience, like I said, was at the Hudson, Gotham City. Before that, I had tried a pill, and I wouldn't feel it. It wouldn't hit me. But I remember that time, that second pill I took hit me, and before that, I never knew how to dance. Like I would just like stand around or whatever. But I learned how to dance. Man, I was doing some crazy dance moves. Thinking about it, like, wish you could have seen it. Like, it was sick though. Like, I was like doing like some crazy like footwork and like, I don't know. Like,
I mean, well, we can turn on the Bluetooth speaker and let you.
And then ever since then, like, I know how to dance.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. And it's a very common sort of story of like, oh yeah, the first time I did it, I didn't feel anything. And then the second time, I will say that for me, the first time I definitely felt it. I was probably like, I was 17, I was in high school, and actually it was an IE. A friend and I, it's like over the summer, and we pulled like the classic move of like, oh, I'm spending the night at his place. And then we did the and vice versa.
Yeah.
And then me and the homie, like we drove all the way to San Bernardino or Pomona, and we went to the Fox Theater at a rave there.
That's crazy. They had a rave there, and back in the day.
Back then it was like a like common rave spot.
I've been to some shows there, but I can't imagine like a rave. But I guess back then,
And it was all like kids.
Yeah,
like it's like teenage party. I'm like, who's throwing those parties? is what I want to know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember like so. And also, by the way, for YouTube, we are not condoning the use of any illegal action. This is strictly for informational/entertainment purposes. But yeah, so I remember getting in there, and it's not like this anymore. It was like literally like a bazaar. Like you would just be walking around with your friends, and there would be like sketchy drug dealers just like mumbling out what they have on like available. It would be like, XK Chronic, XK Chronic, XK Chronic. Like they would just mumble that as they're like walking around the venue. And then you'd be like, oh, what'd you say?
Yeah.
What'd you say? And I remember like, I pulled the like classic move of like buying a tab or pill, taking it, waiting for like an hour and a half, being like, I don't feel anything. And then buying another one and then taking it and then just being like, fucked. But I mean, like that experience changed my life. And then from like that point, and I remember being like a very like angsty kid, like a real hater, like real like fuck all these people. And like,
and that changed you.
Yeah. Changed. Like I came back from that just like, oh yeah, man, it's all good, bro. Yeah. Like, you know, and like, obviously, like, you know, it would wane. Like, so you would have the experience. And then I feel like a lot of times with psychedelics in general, it's sort of like you know, you come out of the experience and you're like, yeah, like optimism. And then after a few weeks, you know, you just kind of get back to normal again.
Oh yeah.
And then you kind of have to keep revisiting. That's crazy.
You're like, you know, the way you're describing it is exactly how I feel. Cause, you know, I feel like people are always like, oh, bad trip, good trip. To me, like, with mushrooms, to me, you know, I've done mushrooms like a handful of times. To me, it's not really like bad trip or good trip. It's a trip. You know, parts of it are bad, parts of it are good. And it's kind of like, you know, you have to be mentally tough to get through it. That's how I feel. I don't know. Do you relate to that?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Like I especially with like the classic psychedelics. So like, you know, I think ecstasy, MDMA, Molly, whatever you want to call it, it kind of exists in its own lane, right? Because like, it's almost like with that one, you can't not have a good time. You know, because the way it works neurologically, you know, you're just going to like, fucking love it. But yeah, the other ones like the LSD, the mushrooms, other similar psychedelics, those are like more of a roller coaster. Yeah. Where like, you know, it can take you to like in one night you can go to like several different places.
Yeah, I've never done LSD, but I've done shrooms a handful of times. I do have one funny story that I wanted to mention. Was like last year, it was my friend's birthday. We got an Airbnb in Joshua Tree. And, you know, just so happened she had some. So I decided to take a little bit. And there's probably like 20 or 30 of us. And, you know, we're drinking and all that, right? And, you know, she just happened to have some. And I was like, you know what? yeah, let's do it, and took them. And I remember there was a point in the night where I went inside the Airbnb and everyone's drunk and like sloppy. They're knocking drinks over and being loud. And I'm like on shrooms, right? And I'm like just observing all this. And it was like too much for me. Like, so I walked out and I enjoyed being alone. And when you're in the desert, like how the sky looks, the stars, right?
Yeah.
And then add shrooms into the mix. I was just like looking at the stars, like, oh man, it was amazing. And then I have this app on my phone where you can like see the constellations.
Oh, like Stargazer or something?
I was enjoying that so much. But yeah, the funny story. So we're all hanging out in the backyard. All of us friends, are around a table. And we're all like, this is in the beginning of the night. And then you can feel the energy changing. It's starting to kick in a little bit, right? And this white butterfly just flies by and then lands on the table. And I look at my friend Erica and I'm like, Erica, I'm tripping out.
Do you see that?
I'm like, Erica, what does this mean? A white butterfly, like it landed right here, like while we're hanging out. Like, what is the meaning of this? And I'll never forget the look on her face when she was like, Daniel, that's a moth. I was like, damn,
are
I
all
must be
white
tripping.
butterflies really just moths?
Right? And I was like, damn, I must be tripping out. I swore it was a white butterfly, but it was a moth.
I mean, that sounds like a shroom story. I see from your shirt here that maybe you are like a psychedelic enthusiast.
I dabble, but it's more for the look.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like those visuals on your shirt are actually very shroomy to me.
Yeah.
Like, that's what like the closed eye very much looks like. Yeah, man. I mean, I think one of the things about rave and this subculture, and not to belabor a point that I've made on this show a lot, is there's very much like a spiritual aspect.
Oh yeah.
To it. Almost to where like it's like this weird dichotomy, because on the one hand, like we're all like fucking degenerate, like ravers, but on the other hand, like we're doing it out of sort of a desire to be spiritual and to like seek union with our fellow human and perhaps with the universe or God or whatever you want to call it. So it's strange that like this experience can kind of encompass such a broad spectrum.
Yeah, there's studies even that are showing now that ecstasy, acid, mushrooms, they have different benefits. Like I saw a study where LSD can help with alcoholism and addiction, and mushrooms help with anxiety and depression. And I know after I do it, the next day for shrooms, the next day I feel more grounded and more in tune with life and nature and what life's about. And yeah, like I said, anything in moderation, I think can be beneficial.
Agreed. I mean, I think if there is a purpose to like life on Earth, it is to sort of try to experience everything, but in a like healthy, moderate way. Like enjoy a great meal, enjoy pizza, enjoy burgers, just not like every
excessive
fucking day. Yeah.
And like, mushrooms are natural when you think about it. It's natural. They were put here for a reason. Like
yeah. There's definitely like a lot of like, I don't know if you read like Terrence McKenna or
I've seen some of his stuff. Yeah.
He's got this theory, and I don't know how well validated it is sort of, like academically, but he has a theory that like mushrooms is where language came from. Like that, like primates back in the day in the savannas were like eating mushrooms and having like these crazy like psychedelic experiences. And through that, they formed language and like the ability to like communicate.
Wow, that's
I think
crazy.
they call it like the stoned ape theory, but again, I don't know how well validated it is scientifically, but I mean,
could be,
sounds cool. I like it. I like the idea. And yeah, like in terms of, natural versus unnatural. I mean, I tend to believe that for the most part, that distinction holds true where like something is like a natural compound, like mushrooms or like weed, it's like, like God gave it to us, the universe gave it to us. But also like low key, I kind of think the universe gave us like acid too. And I think the universe gave us, like MDMA, and
it's all chemicals, right? Compounds that are made.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's all like atoms and shit. Right. So there's really no distinction. Although, of course, like, don't do crack. Like, you know, stay away from crack, kids. It's not good for you. Oh, and the one thing I wanted to mention was in terms of like addiction and LSD. You know, I was reading about how the guy who like invented Alcoholics Anonymous, and you don't hear about this a lot, but like his sort of final form was that he discovered acid. And he was like,
oh, wow.
And he was like, this is where it's at. And, you know, like a big part of AA is like, you know,
higher power,
like spirituality. And basically this is like kind of like the secret that like gets swept under the rug, is that like basically his final evolution was like, yeah, like, so stop doing booze and, you know, get spiritual and take LSD. Like that was kind of like,
this is true?
It's true.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And like he became like a big like acid proponent. Because I think,
what's his name again? Do you remember?
Bill Wilson.
Something like, yeah.
You know, he became because like a big part of A is like, you should have a spiritual experience. You should like come to know yourself as part of this greater universe. And like, what better way to do that, but, you know, through psychedelic experiences, you know, like, I feel like it's like a shortcut, and people talk about shortcuts, like, ew, shortcuts, like, but like, for a modern human who's getting bombarded with all kinds of crazy media, who has to worry about rent, who has to like worry about so many things, like, can you really reasonably expect that person, you know, who may or may not be struggling to like, oh yeah, meditate every day and do yoga and only eat whole foods, and you'll have a spiritual experience after 15 years, versus like, yeah, why don't you try some fucking acid, bro, and like listen, go to this concert, it'll change your life, like. Anyway, that's my spiel. Shout out to psychedelics. And, you know, I guess, you know, that's our time. You know, we've come up over an hour here, and Tunez, just want to thank you so much for coming by. This has been like a really like stimulating conversation. I feel like you have a lot of insight to share, despite being a newcomer to the scene. And, you know, I wish you the very best, you know, as you kind of embark on your career. And is there anything you want to plug before we sign off here?
Yeah, just follow me on Instagram, Tunez from the Crypt, Tunez with a Z. All my stuff's there. And, you know, lastly, I'd like to shout out everyone, all the supporters, all my friends. Shout out Impulse, shout out Novocaine, shout out Elation Moment. You know, shout out everybody, you know, pursuing their dreams, man. I hope we all make it.
Yeah. Shout out to everyone who has used, you know, a negative time in human history to expand and find that silver lining. And, you know, once again, folks, please like and subscribe, and we will see you next week.